Okay, on our journey from the bay side, we go under the Pelican Island Bridge. We are headed to the ship channel, to the jetties.
First, let's talk about why these jetties are here and so important in the first place. After the Civil War ended in 1865, the American West and Midwest were growing. Farms were producing crops like cotton and vegetables as fast as they could to be shipped out to other countries and even the northeastern United States. The problem for places like Kansas and the New Mexico, Colorado, and Nebraska territories is that they were nowhere near a deepwater port like New Orleans or Pensacola. Galveston was a port primed to explode economically if the port and entrance to the ship channel were deeper.
After a relatively rough ride from the causeway through the port of Galveston, we arrive at the Galveston jetties. This one right here is the North Jetty. If you've ever been in a boat or looked at an aerial map or gone on a cruise or anything, you may have noticed these long rock formations extending all the way out into the Gulf of Mexico, extending all the way from the Bolivar. This is why it's unscripted. The North Jetty here is extending all the way from the Bolivar Peninsula, which is right back there, and the South Jetty extends from the extreme east end of Galveston Island into the Gulf of Mexico.
Galveston began their jetty project in 1873, and by the 1890s, the United States government allocated funds to extend the jetties to the current lengths that we see today.
When they built these jetties, they brought most of the granite rock in from central Texas, near modern-day Marble Falls.
The ship channel was realized, not only opening up access to the port of Galveston for deep draft vessels, but to the port of Texas City and Houston. When these jetties were completed, they also drew fishermen from around the country. They were some of the longest jetties and breakwaters in the world.
Here we are at the entrance to Galveston Bay. If you've ever ridden the Bolivar Ferry towards Bolivar, and you look out to your port side or left, you will see SS Selma. Selma was built in 1919. She's made almost entirely of concrete and rebar. These concrete ships is that Galveston isn't just home to one of them. There are actually two. One of them lives at the North Jetty.
The Durham, like the Selma, was a World War I era concrete ship, used mainly as an oil tanker. The Durham was brought to Galveston in 1935 to be an oil reservoir on Pelican Island. But by 1936, the Durham was acquired by a businessman. The Durham was moved a few miles offshore of Galveston and transformed into a fishing pier and resort, where fishermen could go spend the day fishing off of the Durham. The Durham was closed down a few years later, probably due to damage from a hurricane, and by the 1960s, she was placed at the east side of the tip of the North Jetty. Around 1963, the Durham broke into two pieces. But one of the largest pieces of the Durham can still be seen at the tip of the North Jetty, and lots of fishermen fish around this vessel to this day.